The Disciplinarian is another really good, rather interesting episode of Everybody Loves Raymond. This is the 15th episode of Season 7. It's directed by Zaks, and as always, there will be spoilers from now as I go through the episode chronologically and share some thoughts. And it starts off with Marie coming over, asking Robert, who is at Ray and Debra's, if there's a wedding date yet. They haven't even told Amy's parents yet. And it was a very nice way to very quickly keep us up to date with what's happening with that. The boys, Michael and Geoffrey, then tell Ray that they're going to go and play outside, and Ray doesn't see a problem with this, but then Debra says no, because you haven't tidied your room yet, your room is a mess, you're not going out to play until you've tidied it. And if that was that would be fine. Ray didn't know, that's fair enough, but then Ray made it a bit worse by suggesting out loud in front of Michael and Geoffrey that they could go outside now and tidy later. And it's not that Debra was disagreeing with Ray in front of the children, as I got the impression they were already told no. But Ray openly disagreeing with Debra in front of the boys like that was obviously completely unacceptable and not something that he should have done. Debra ultimately says no, she puts her foot down, and the boys say, "Mommy's mean," which obviously hurts. And Marie said something that I think is probably truthful, but not ideal. She points out that it's natural for one parent to be the bad guy when it comes to discipline. And I think she probably has a point there. And I think the disciplinarian is usually whichever parent spends the most time with the children, generally speaking. And I think she has a valid point. It doesn't make it good, but I think she speaks truth. And Ray says that he's the fun dad. And Debra said something that I think was quite hurtful. She said that, well, he's fun, implying there that he's not a dad, which of course he is, but he doesn't do a lot of the parenting. He does a lot of the playing and having fun, and I think that's also a very valid point. And then Marie pats Ray's head, which was a very, very cute thing. We then cut to Ray, realising, okay, Debra has a point. He goes upstairs to tell the boys to clean their room, and he kind of puts his foot down, but in a way that, understandably, the boys think he's playing, and they try to play with him, and it's all really believable the way it unfolds. But then Ray gets really frustrated and shouts, "No TV for a month," and the boys look genuinely shocked at this because they're not used to Ray disciplining. And I think Ray was, in my opinion, this is how I'm reading the scene, I think Ray was less angry with the fact that the boys thought that he was playing and that they weren't listening to him. I think he was more angry at himself because he finally realised that Debra's actually right and that this isn't something he's been doing as much as he should have been. And I think he was getting angry at himself, but obviously taking that out on Michael and Geoffrey. And he does realise eventually when he's downstairs that it was maybe a bit harsh to take away all of their holidays. He sent them to bed in the middle of the day and said, no Christmas, no Easter. Yeah, that's quite harsh, and he's going to go on to apologise to them. And then Frank says, "You back down now, you'll be their puppet." And I do think it's a really difficult situation. I guess the main message here is don't dish out punishments to your children that are ridiculously severe, because either you're going to have to back down and, as Frank suggests, be their puppet, or you're going to have to follow through with them. And nobody, I imagine not many parents, actually want to take the holidays away from their children. So it's a really difficult situation that Ray is now in, because I think Frank is right. If he does go upstairs and back down, it's going to show that the one time he tried to discipline, it didn't work. And Michael and Geoffrey are probably not going to listen to him going forward. Ray then starts to tell stories from his younger days. Robert keeps saying these stories are all lies because they involve him, of course. And this scene, I think, did feel a little bit long. It wasn't boring. The stories are fine, but they weren't that interesting. And I did want some forward movement. And then it does pick up a little bit when Ray starts to tell a story about Debra and Mardi Gras, because Debra's facial expressions were fantastic. And then at the end of the episode, Ray ultimately decides to go upstairs and speak with the boys. He makes a deal with them. Just obey everything Mummy and Daddy tell you until you're 60 and you can have the holidays back. And obviously Michael and Geoffrey not really being able to work out exactly how much time that is. They agree, of course, and I feel like it was a good way of Ray gaining control of the situation, but while also making Michael and Geoffrey feel like they have an element of control. If they want their holidays back, all they have to do is listen and react accordingly, so they can choose the good behaviour, so the ball is back in their court in their eyes. But obviously that's not actually the case, and I think Ray handled it really well. It's a really sweet conversation, and I think we need to give Ray credit as well for trying. If this is really his first time disciplining, and I don't know if it actually is, I'm trying to think back to previous episodes, there may have been occasions, but obviously this is not something he does regularly, and he's probably not going to get it right immediately. But I think it was really important to, first of all, have him acknowledging that he should be doing this more often, and second of all, to see him trying, and then third of all, seeing him rectifying the problems that he caused in what I consider to be quite a sensible, logical way. So it's a really solid episode. Yes, it's funny. We have some brilliant facial expressions. Marie patting Ray on the head is one of my favourite moments. And I think pretty much everybody had really valid points. I don't think anybody was really out of line. Yes, Ray at the beginning, when he contradicted Debra in front of Michael and Geoffrey by saying they could play now and tidy up later. That wasn't very good, but I don't think Ray realised what he was doing. But generally, other than that, I don't think anybody was unreasonable, or at least I don't think anybody acted in a way that didn't feel believable. So, all things considered, The Disciplinarian is a pretty solid episode of Everybody Loves Raymond.